Good day, everybody. So we thought it's just apt to update you through a presentation on what's happening on site, both in Tanzania and in China, and also elsewhere in the company. And the presentation's named aptly Charging Towards Production. Sean, just the next slide, please. The disclaimer, you can read it at your own time. Next slide, Sean. Well, most of you will be familiar with this slide, but we're all aware of the Lindi Jumbo's project's compelling economics based on the study metrics, which are now supported by the current robust graphite pricing and forecasted growth in prices. Being the only listed graphite play to secure debt funding certainly says something about the project itself, as well as the work done by the entire team leading up to where we are at the moment. We have leapfrogged our peers in the race to production by not changing our strategy, as Mike mentioned in his brief, but focusing on what we know and what we believe is the least risky part of the entire graphite chain. We are not reinventing the wheel here, but installing proven graphite technology used for many years all over the world. There are no real secrets in the graphite mining or primary processing technology, and we are in construction and well on our way to be in production in 2022, with ample opportunity for expansion, and I'll talk about this later, or downstream processing, as Mike mentioned in his brief, should there be a need for more of our product and once we are cash flow positive. Next slide, Sean. Just an overview of where we are and where we operate. Although the vast majority of management focus is on the development of the Lindi Jumbo Graphite project, and probably rightly so, we remain a diversified minerals company and continue to explore opportunities and actively work on our existing projects in Tanzania and in the UK. And I'll update you on all of these later on in the presentation. Next slide, Sean. As you can see there, our vision is to be a globally recognized miner of high quality, large flake graphite concentrate for the international markets. This vision has never wavered from the onset. We strive to be the supplier of choice for responsibly sourced large flake natural graphite, while optimizing the value of Lindi Jumbo in the large flake markets, and at the same time uplifting the local communities, which is very important to us wherever we operate. I will discuss this in more detail, and as well as the work done by all involved to get us where we are today in making this vision of the company happen. Next slide, Sean. Next one. The graphite market. This is probably where we need to start. And over the next two slides, you'll see the well-documented forecast for the unprecedented demand for natural graphite over the next 10 to 20 years. Pricing for flake graphite has been steady or has been steadily increasing over the past few months, and with a recent spike due to the energy crisis in China and the winter shutdowns, which are well documented, especially on the eastern side of China, and the pressure on some of the existing mines to shut down due to environmental concerns. Current pricing is very close to the predicted pricing that we used in the 2019 DFS, and all forecasts are that these will further increase over the next few years. It has been said that the road to green energy is paved with graphite, and the critical importance of natural graphite and the use of energy storage has been on the forefront of discussions when it comes to green energy. Green or renewable energy will also replace a lot of the existing power generation systems, and in solar energy, the use of graphite is critical to the silicon production used in solar panels. The World Bank has reported that graphite demand will increase nearly 500% from production levels in 2018 over the next 25 to 30 years. And this surge demonstrates its critical role in the clean energy transition, specifically in the lithium-ion energy storage space, which is most widely projected deployed in the battery technology. To add to the green revolution, graphite is also very important, plays a very important role in the safety industry, especially in the use of expandable graphite as a flame retardant, and another critical industry which is high growth forecast. We strongly believe that the timing of getting our project, the Lindi Jumbo project, into production fits perfectly with all the growth forecast for the use of natural flake graphite. Next slide, please, Sean. Next one. So let's discuss the project in more detail. As you are well aware, the debt funding was secured, and as mentioned, we are the only listed graphite company globally to secure debt funding for a startup graphite mine. And very important to us, this was with a local Tanzanian bank, the CRDB Bank. The loan packages at good terms, as you can see there, and are the standard conditions are very typical for a transaction of this nature. We have diligently been ticking off the conditions precedent, as Mike also mentioned, for drawdown, and currently there is only one CP outstanding, which is a standby letter of credit, and we are negotiating this for execution just before drawdown needs to commence. There are compelling reasons why we have postponed this as long as possible, as also mentioned by Mike. And we plan to do this to finalize this in December, with the aim of drawing down on the first debt in January next year. Furthermore, the appointment of the independent project manager by CRDB gives the bank extra assurance that the money spent on the project are in line with the project budget, and it also works in our favor that the invoices submitted by contractors are independently checked and verified against the work done on site and against the construction reports out of China. Which also gives us a bit of extra security around that. Next slide, please, Sean. Shareholders should be familiar with this current slide, and I won't dwell on it too much. It's just what we see as the differentiating factors of this project, the Linde Jumbo project, against our peer group. It's how this exceptional mineral resource underlies the outstanding metallurgical characteristics, the project design philosophy, and the compelling economics of the projects. There are four pillars that underlie this. Is obviously the resource, as I've mentioned, the mining, which is very small and simple, the processing, which is a small and manageable plant, and also the premium product that we will get in concentrate, which is highly skewed towards the large flake and therefore a higher basket price. Next slide, please, Sean. Now, this is probably what most people want to hear, and it's our progress on site. Next slide, Sean. In Tanzania, the construction progress. Since the last announcement a month or so ago, progress has been steady on various fronts in Tanzania and in China. Although we are working in unprecedented times across 3 continents, we remain on schedule and within the original cost guidance. The earth moving and civils contractor remains the major contractor on site and are currently slightly ahead of schedule. As you can see in the list of activities and the photos over the last few months, the focus has been around preparing the area for concrete works to commence shortly to enable the construction or erection of the processing plant. The erection of the processing plant is planned for early February, and a lot of effort has gone into the preparing the site and access to the site for the upcoming summer rainfalls, and we are now confident that work there will be able to continue without disruption. We must also keep in mind we're not in the tropics, and the rainfall there is nothing out of the ordinary. It's something we've been working with over the last few years. As you can see, the plant platform and the internal and access roads are nearing completion. The ROM wall, the Terratel wall that you can see there on the photos on the right, that's on schedule and progressing well. The road slab over the low water bridge for access to site is complete. The tailing storage facility topsoil removal and stockpiling is on schedule. The diversion road around the mining license is in use at the moment. The raw water storage dam that's needed for processing water and for construction water is on schedule. And the concrete works are scheduled for start in December. The same contractor, TNR, which are on site doing the bulk earthworks, they are also responsible for the civils, with one batch plant already on site and the other one to arrive soon. And as mentioned briefly yesterday, grid power was negotiated with the local power supplier TANESCO, and this is good news for us as the power will be utilized for the construction activities and holds potential cost savings both during the construction and also once in production. To incorporate the availability of the grid power, investigations are now underway on how to best utilize this cheaper form of electricity and how to integrate this with our planned power plant that we need to install on site. On that front, we're also currently investigating the option of a build, own, operate, and transfer, a BOOT option for the supply of greener energy to the mine through a hybrid power solution, which is solar and fuel and also possibly battery storage energy or storage. And should this be viable and cost effective, there is the possibility of further reducing the capex and the opex of the operation. All of the construction contracts have now been either executed or terms agreed to and are in line with our original CapEx guidance. As a further risk mitigation strategy, and with travel around the world still severely restricted, we have appointed a full-time construction manager on site. He will start tomorrow. And our EPC contract is also sending a civil engineer to site to oversee the sign-off, or the build and the sign-off of the concrete works due to commence in December. And he's also arriving in Tanzania tomorrow. Next slide, please, Sean. Obviously, our other large contract that we've signed is the EPC contract with Yantai Jinping Engineering, one of the largest, or the largest shareholder in Walkabout. And to make that process smoother, and due to the fact that none of us can travel to China to monitor the work ongoing there, we've appointed Access Group International as our company representative, overseeing the EPC project management, including QA/QC of all equipment, as you can see on some of those, on one of those slides there in the top right, and to ensure that all contingencies are covered for a smooth transition once the shipment arrived in Tanzania. We've also appointed our logistics contractor in our local contractor in Tanzania. The first two shipments will leave before mid-December and arrive in Tanzania approximately 4 weeks later. These first two shipments will be kept in storage in Tanzania, and with the regular arrival of shipments thereafter, the equipment will be transported to site to fit in with the construction schedule. The Jinping construction team is due to arrive in Tanzania in February and will make the core of the mechanical installation team, supported by local artisans. These are the same people that have been involved with the construction, assembly and disassembly of the equipment in China, so they are well aware or well versed and or familiar with the equipment that they're going to be working with in Tanzania. The major challenge that we are facing, and everybody else in the world most probably, is getting the equipment from China to site. This is well documented, the availability or the lack of availability of shipping containers, and therefore the schedule was increased from 5 shipment batches to 10, of approximately 10 containers each. Procurement and manufacturing is within schedule in China, and with the teams in China and Tanzania working closely together, every effort is made to mitigate the risk of the current shipping problems. Both the Access Group and our logistics people in Tanzania are very familiar with getting things in and out of Tanzania. So we are very confident that this can happen without any hitches. Next slide, please, Sean. Next slide, Sean.
Right. No, go back one, Sean.
Back one, Sean. Development schedule. So this is the high-level development schedule that we're working towards. As you can see there, a lot of the boxes have been ticked, and certain milestones have been reached already. And with the kickoff of the project in September, and with the tight development timeframe, a lot has happened to keep the project scheduled and within the expenditure cost guidance. Every effort is also made to see if there could be further cost savings without compromising on quality or safety. This will be ongoing throughout the construction process. We are still on track for construction completion at the end of the second quarter of 2022, whereafter the dry and wet commissioning phase will commence. The management is also working on operational readiness plan to ensure that there is a smooth transition from construction into the operation and production phase. As you can see there, the first shipment, and as I mentioned, is to arrive in Tanzania early January, and regular shipments thereafter at a quite a fast pace thereafter. The 9 remaining shipments will arrive. The first shipment includes mobile equipment, cranes, front-end loaders, and so forth, which as I said, will be kept in storage until needed on site. And that will happen with the second or third shipment that arrives, when equipment will go directly to site to start with the construction of the plant. Next slide, please, Sean. So what have we done we firmly believe that that the project is now as de-risked as we can probably get it, with the development funding in place, a very robust mineral resource and ore reserve, a lengthy life of mine with all permits, licenses, and approvals in place. The project has been peer reviewed by an independent international leading engineering consulting, SRK, and all material contracts are executed. or the prices for the rest agreed on. Offtake is in place, and we're working on that at the moment, and we're in construction and progressing to schedule and within guidance. Importantly, the majority of our contractors and 100% of our staff are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, and ongoing programs initiated to maintain or improve on the status. We're all aware of the current, shall I call it, chaos in the world with the recent COVID variant being reported in well, all over now. And you know, we're quite happy that we've done this program and we've preempted, or not preempted, or we've just been proactive in getting our staff vaccinated and getting these programs in place on site and in the local villages. Next slide, please, Sean. Offtake agreements, as we've mentioned before, we continue to we've got 3 offtake agreements in place in China. They are still active, and we are still aiming to get these pricing mechanism fixed closer to production. And we continue to explore and discuss various options around offtake agreements on top of the strong foundation of committed sales as previously announced and displayed here. Of the 40,000 tons forecasted production, 30,000 tons is projected to be the higher premium large jumbo and super jumbo flake. And importantly, of that 30,000 tons of the premium product, 20,000 has been committed under these previous announced binding offtake agreements with Chinese end users, and retain a level of optionality on the additional 10,000 tons of premium product. There's probably an opportunity to supply to either current off-takers. As you can see there's a minimum and a maximum level that they would like, or we can diversify this geographically in attractive markets, be it Europe, Korea, USA, or elsewhere. With the company recently joining the European Raw Minerals Alliance, we have been speaking to a number of interesting parties in Europe. Around a quarter of our planned production will be able to be sold into the smaller flake markets, and this will importantly come into line into a growing demand for natural-based graphite anode material. Supporting what I've just mentioned is the global desire to diversify supply chains around away from the current dominant model, and I'm seeing that on a regular basis where we are contacted from companies from outside of China looking for a diversity of supply. We are working closely with the prominent global trader Wogan, who's also one of our who we have a marketing and sales agreement with, who are providing strong support in terms of our surplus product placement in the range of markets, and further potentially can provide sales administration and logistics support, along with the working capital options, as we've mentioned before. Through a binding agreement with them, a working capital facility for 80% of the value of each consignment of concentrate contracted is to be paid following the receipt of the shipping documents. This will go a long way towards easing the working capital requirements at the mine. On pricing, we are still on track to negotiate sales price of our existing offtake partners closer to production, and aiming to do this in early in 2022. We believe with our quality profile that we will be able to achieve prices that recognize the value and use of our Lindy Jumbo graphite product, that is the higher end of the scale on the larger flakes. This will remain our focus point for the foreseeable future, with the intent of maximizing free cash flow to the project by ensuring that we get the best prices for our product. We will continue to develop our understanding of the downstream options of our graphite. As Mike said, we've looked into this already, but we believe, as in the case of many other commodities, that a considerable amount of the available rent lies in the raw material itself, particularly one from a deposit as attractive as ours. As briefly mentioned before, it appears that some of our competitors are positioning themselves as technology companies, with the view that this is more attractive to the market than a mining company. We are of the view that downstream processing is of greater risk to be commoditized than the raw material itself, and we have retained this philosophy from the onset. Next slide, please, Sean. On our graphite base, we have a large land holding in Tanzania that we firmly believe to be a premium graphite country that fits our strategy of high grade and large flake. A recent in-house estimation on the regional potential shows that we have an exploration target, or a mineral potential range, of between 72 and 172 million tons of in-situ graphite material. This excludes the current JORC mineral resource of 41 million tons at 10.8% TGC, where we are currently building our mine. Next slide, please, Sean. A question I'm often asked is, how big can this thing be? There's still the perception out there that bigger is better. Our stance from the start was that we didn't want to delineate the largest graphite deposit in the world. There's no reason to do that. You must be able to sell your graphite, but it is still a question that I'm asked. The short answer is that there are growth opportunities galore, as indicated here, and many of these can be done relatively cheaply should there be a demand for more of our product. We can expand our resource base through the delineation of known graphite occurrences near mine or further afield, as we've put out in our potential mineral resource estimate or potential mineralization estimate. And we can also increase the throughput through the existing plant by around 20% without any additional capital spend. Through minor capex spend, this can be further on peripheral equipment such as pumps and motors. The throughput can again be moderately increased. The spare capacity has also been built into the back end to handle any increases that we might throw at the plant in the future. We still have the opinion that we would like to sell our 40,000 tons of concentrate that we plan to produce, but if there is a demand for more, we can produce it through the existing plant without any capex, further capex spend. There's also an option to treat the planned low-grade stockpiles on site that we've previously announced, and to look at some of the downstream opportunities, so this makes sense. So as you can see, there's lots of opportunities that we have, or as Mike said, all the opportunities that some of our peer groups are looking at, the downstream opportunities will be available to us, but our main focus is to produce graphite from Lindy Jumbo and to produce it profitably. Next slide, please, Sean. Mike has mentioned this in his brief, but this is just a visual display of where we are sitting against our peer groups. The size of the bubbles is the market capitalization currently, and it probably does not take much to see that we are severely undervalued in comparison to our peer group. Our project as the third highest reserve grade, it's first in flake size distribution, first in margin per ton of concentrate, and the sixth largest in situ reserve. And that after I said that we haven't been targeting a size of a resource or reserve. And we believe that the re-rating is the cards as we continue to tick the boxes and deliver what we say that we said we are going to deliver. The next slide also is just another one, Sean, just displaying our comparison against our peer group. Next slide, please, Sean. Next slide. ESG. No, go on back, please, Sean. Although ESG is a buzzword of late, it has always formed an integral part of how we operate. Without compromising on any of the ESG principles, the social aspect of operating in a very poor region of Tanzania has been an important focus area, and we believe that we have been quite innovative in this regard. Our philosophy of Tanzania first, local first, has been there from the onset, and we have not needed to change one bit of how we operate in country since ESG has become the buzzword of late. It's increasingly obvious to me now that to be able to sell graphite into the more Western offtake agreement type agreements, your ESG principles will have to be robust and will be checked by everybody. Using the UN's 17 sustained, next slide, please, Sean. Using the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all, it was not surprising that we have constantly been ticking these boxes since the onset of the project more than 5 years ago. The slide here describes briefly how we have been doing this, and our work in country is now widely recognized through mention by the Prime Minister after a recent visit to site, and also with Walkabout being the winner of the Best Innovation in Corporate and Social Development by the Australia Africa Minerals and Energy Group Awards recently in Perth. The social development lies very, very closely to our hearts. We've been working very hard on this, and as I said, this has been going on without any effort. Next slide, Sean. As mentioned by Mike and also briefly before in the presentation, we did a COVID vaccination program on site. This is ongoing. This was highly or it was applauded by the local authorities. It was the first of these type of systems that they rolled out in the region, and through our help, they're also now rolling it out to the local villages in the region, and we will touch around 8,000 people through our COVID vaccination support that we give the local government there. Next slide, please, Sean. Next one. And as mentioned, we are a diversified minerals company, and development of projects within the exploration pipeline has taken somewhat of a backseat as we've been focused on the Lindy Jumbo project. That said, and as also announced, we have kicked off a maiden drilling program at Blackrag in Scotland. It's a very exciting lead zinc silver project. And also we have a large landholding in Scotland, around 750 square kilometers, with numerous old mines that were mined in the 1700s and 1800s. But strangely enough, no modern exploration has been done in the entire region since then. We have kicked off, as I said, the drilling program. We've completed 4 holes thus far, with assays to be received early in the new year, and these will be announced to the market as they come out. Next slide, please, Sean. There's just a few photos of the works on site, with the guys logging core and analyzing them as they go along, and also the historical Blackrag lead zinc silver mines, which we are now drilling underneath to see if there's any depth extensions or parallel systems to the mine as they left it when they stopped mining in the 1800s. And there's also another gold target, which is drill ready Glenhead gold target, which was identified through work done by the British Geological Survey in the 1970s when they did a regional sampling all over Scotland, and we remain drill ready there. Next slide, please, Sean. With the emphasis on securing the necessary funding for Lindy Jumbo, work at Amani has been restricted to the more regional interpretations through both remote sensing analysis and the reinterpretation of the wide-spaced government geophysical data sets. Both these exercises have now been integrated with regional targeting done and follow-up underway in the field. This is a very exciting gold project, numerous alluvial workings there, but nobody has ever explored for the source of the gold in the region. Indications are that the source of the gold for the alluvial workings is quite close to where the alluvial workings are. But as I said, there's thick ground cover. Nobody's done any work on it, and we're actively looking at this at the moment. We have a large landholding there of around 750 square kilometers, and a lot of work to cover there in the next few years. Next slide, please, Sean. So this is just the work that we've done. We've done all the regional work. There's some photos of nuggets that I took when we were just walking around, speaking to these guys, digging in the alluvials. And this, as I said, this work is ongoing and will be progressed over the next few years. That's it for my presentation. I hope that we've given you enough comfort for what's happening in Tanzania. There is quite a lot happening on various fronts. It is quite challenging times. Both Alan Mulligan and Bruce White have spent almost 2 months on site now. They're both sitting in quarantine in Perth, and it's not easy operating these times. But we are very happy with the progress to get where we are now without many disruptions. Thank you.